Welcome to the deep dive. Ever had one of those gardening moments?
Yeah.
A total mishap that somehow flips into a genuine revelation.
Oh, yeah, like when something goes completely sideways, but then you accidentally stumble onto a better way of doing things.
Exactly. Well, today we're digging into one of those exact situations. We're unlocking what might just be a pretty neat secret for propagating Coleus plants. Those super vibrant ones everyone loves.
Mm-hmm. And this isn't just about a quick tip. We're really aiming to get into the why behind it. We'll share some practical insights, a fresh perspective, really, on plant propagation.
Yeah, and it's all based on the gardener's own detailed notes and a bit of accidental science, you could say.
Definitely grounded in real observation.
So our source for this journey is called Notes on Gardening, Part 578. It was published just recently, June 28th, 2025, by a gardener named Ang.
Right.
And our mission, really, is to pull out the absolute gold from Ang's experience and their ongoing experiments. Basically, offer you a shortcut to getting Coleus propagation right.
Expect some surprising stuff here. A method born from pure chance, really.
Okay, so let's set the scene from Ang's notes.
Yeah.
Ang has these Coleus plants, clearly doing well, growing fast, sometimes even boosted with GA3 hormone.
Yeah, gibberellic acid, just to accelerate things sometimes.
And Ang wasn't new to this. They'd tried various rooting methods before.
Right, like water, just plain soil, vermiculite, cocoa peat, all the usual suspects.
With, mixed results, sometimes good, sometimes not so much.
Then comes the oops moment.
Exactly. A heavy rainstorm, or maybe it was strong wind, Ang wasn't totally sure, but it knocked over a small pot.
Okay.
And that pot then hit a bigger Coleus plant nearby. A branch got completely torn off.
Ouch.
And here's the key part. It wasn't noticed right away. It sat there kind of wilting and drying out for maybe a day, maybe two.
Oh, wow. So most people would just been that, right? Looks dead.
Probably. But Ang, maybe just out of habit or maybe intuition.
What did they do?
They just took that wilted, torn bit and poked it into a seedling tray they were using for something else entirely. Not even for Coleus.
No, it was for mint propagation. And the main medium in there was cocoa peat.
Okay, so just stuck it in there?
And then, get this, within just a few days, that sad little cutting didn't just, perk up a bit. It thrived.
Really?
Yeah. The leaves got their color back, super vibrant, and when Ang checked, it had developed this amazing root ball, much faster, much stronger than lots of their previous attempts.
Whoa. Okay, that is unexpected.
Definitely. And that's what made Ang stop and think, okay, hold on. What just happened here? Why did this work so well?
Right. That's the big question. Why did this one cutting root like crazy, especially when it seemed doomed and wasn't even treated, the proper way?
Well, let's compare it. Ang points out the standard method for Coleus cuttings, right? You usually take a stem cutting, specifically cutting it just below a leaf node.
Because that's where the natural rooting hormones are concentrated.
Exactly. That node area is where the plant is already primed to send out new roots and shoots. That's the plant's own mechanism.
But this accidental cutting, it wasn't like that, was it? It wasn't a nice clean cut below a node from the tip of a branch.
No, that's the really interesting detail. It was specifically a short side shoot, and crucially, it didn't have the growing tip on it. It came from lower down on the main trunk.
A side shoot without a tip. Okay, why does that matter?
So Ang has this hypothesis, and it makes a lot of sense. When you prune a Coleus, like snipping off the main growing tip to make it bush out.
Yes, standard practice to get more branches.
Right. Well, Ang suspects that doing this causes the plant's natural rooting hormones, which would normally go up to that tip, to kind of accumulate or get concentrated in those side shoots below the cut.
Like a hormone traffic jam, redirecting the rooting power downwards into the sides.
Sort of, yeah. So that side shoot, especially one where the main tip above it had been removed earlier, might just be packed with a higher concentration of rooting hormones at its base.
Okay, that's a fascinating idea. It connects pruning for shape directly to propagation potential.
It really does. It's a link we might not normally make.
And what about where it landed, that seedling tray?
The medium was key, too. It was cocoa peat, but Ang specifically describes it as very soggy cocoa peat.
Soggy, not just damp.
Apparently quite wet. The tray was getting hit by rain or watered almost daily, so it stayed consistently saturated. This created, like, a microclimate.
High humidity, right?
Exactly. Super high humidity around the cutting.
And that humidity probably helped a lot, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely. Ang noted that because of the constant high humidity, there was no need to do the usual trick of trimming off some of the top leaves.
Right, which you normally do to stop the cutting losing too much water through transpiration. before it has roots.
Precisely. The humidity basically prevented it from drying out, even with all its leaves intact. Plus, the location itself was good, ideal indirect sunlight. Not harsh sun, just bright indirect light.
So multiple factors lining up. Now, Aang initially had a thought about the dried look of the cutting, didn't they? Because it sat out for a day or two.
hmm The idea that maybe letting Coleus cuttings callus over, letting the cut end dry and seal a bit, might actually be good for them. It's a common technique for succulents and some other plants.
Yeah, I've heard that for things like geraniums, too. Let it dry first.
Right. But here's where Aang did some digging, and this is a really important point, maybe the biggest myth buster here.
Okay.
Turns out, Coleus stems are classified as softwood or maybe semi-hardwood. They're tender, they lose water really fast.
Okay.
And these types of cuttings, Aang found, do not benefit from callusing at all.
Really? So letting them dry is actually bad.
Exactly. They shouldn't be left to dry out much because they transpire so quickly. They actually need consistent moisture right from the start to get those roots going successfully.
Wow. Okay, that flips the script.
Mm-hmm.
So no drying, no callousing for Coleus. Keep them moist.
That seems to be the critical takeaway Aang found. It contradicts what a lot of us might assume based on other plants.
Yeah. So putting it all together now, Aang's theory is what? A combination of things.
Yeah, the full hypothesis is basically this. The amazing success came from a perfect storm. First, the type and location of the cutting that specific side shoot, possibly loaded with extra rooting hormones because its tip was gone.
Sure.
Second, the environment, that consistently soggy, high-humidity cocoa peat.
Right.
And third, the indirect light. All those factors working together.
The right cutting in the right place at the right time, essentially.
Pretty much.
And Aang, being a dedicated gardener, isn't just leaving it as a one-off success story, are they?
Nope. Like any good investigator, Aang is already testing this. They've taken new cuttings, specifically targeting those side shoots without tips from a mature plant.
And putting them where?
Back into the same seedling tray, in the exact same spot, trying to perfectly replicate that soggy, humid microclimate that worked so well before.
Smart. Control the variables.
And they're also doing a comparison, like a proper little experiment.
Absolutely.
They're also taking some standard cuttings, from the tips of branches, and putting them in the same tray alongside the side shoot cuttings.
Ah, an A/B test. Side shoots versus tip cuttings in the same conditions.
Exactly. It's a practical way to see if the side shoots really do perform better under those specific conditions.
That's great. So we'll hopefully get some follow-up results soon.
Yeah, Aang is watching them closely now, very curious to see what happens. It just highlights that gardening is always about learning, right? Observing, experimenting.
Definitely. So let's boil this down for everyone listening. The core insight from Aang's accidental discovery seems to be this. For potentially better, faster Coleus propagation, consider using those short side shoots that don't have the growing tip, especially if you've previously pruned the main tip above them to encourage branching.
Because they might have that extra hormone boost.
Right. And then, crucially, give them a really moist, consistently soggy, high humidity environment, like that cocoa peat setup.
And indirect light.
And absolutely don't let them callus over or dry out first. Keep them consistently moist.
That seems to be the formula Aang stumbled upon.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does, and it brings up a bigger point for you, the listener, to maybe ponder. How could understanding where hormones concentrate in different parts of other plants,
Right.
and how the environment, like humidity and moisture, interacts with that, how could that change your approach to propagating other things in your garden?
That's a great question. It encourages looking beyond just the basic cut and stick method.
Exactly. Observe your plants. See where they branch after pruning. Maybe try a little experiment yourself, inspired by Aang.
Yeah, maybe this secret isn't just for Coleus. It could unlock success with other plants too. Definitely food for thought for your own gardening adventures.